Caleb Downs is on the move. He is leaving Alabama for the transfer portal. Where might he be ending up? What can we deduce is his reason for leaving Alabama? We'll talk about it right now, but first things first, make sure you're subscribed. We will be covering this portal recruitment now of Caleb Downs as closely as humanly possible. We'll talk about it a lot, so make sure you're subscribed. Also, get at me on Twitter and Instagram. Let me know, at JD Pickell, who you think is in the best spot to land Caleb Downs. We'll give you our feel here in a second. So this is, let's just kind of state the obvious here. This is a major loss for Alabama. For my money, the best player on Alabama's roster, the on-field impact I think that he brings to the table, there's no denying what that is. 70 total tackles a season ago, a couple interceptions, got elite instincts. Like what he brings when you just play football is like undeniable. That's the first part of this, and that's the obvious part of this. The other part of this that I think is potentially more detrimental to Alabama is now what it says about the overall feel internally. And I don't want to overblow this and say, well, now Alabama's not going to be Alabama. Alabama's going to go 8-4. They're going to go 7-5. Like, I'm not saying any of that. Alabama could still very well win the SEC, win a national championship, all those things. But in the here and now, this is a gut punch because Caleb Downs, I truly believe, is one of those people that steps into the room and is the thermostat. Like, he sets the temperature for the workout or for the meeting or whatever it ends up being. Like, the way that people talk about him, that's the kind of sense I get with the player that he is. And so now with him deciding to transfer out, the overall sentiment is kind of like, whoa, hey, why is your best player transferring out? And again, there's probably a lot of reasons, and it might say more about what he would like to get out of his college experience somewhere else, which we'll talk about, than what's currently going to Alabama. But the narrative, whether it's fair or not, will start to run of, well, is there something going on internally at Alabama that they couldn't keep Caleb Downs there? Did Caleb Downs not believe in the vision? I'm not here to tell you those things are true or untrue, but the uneasiness that it provides, that your star player is leaving to go elsewhere, is unfortunate and something that they'll have to deal with now. So I think to kind of give this the proper context, I don't think this says as much about Alabama as I think it does just about what Caleb Downs is having to sort through right now. Because think about if you're Caleb Downs, out of high school, he committed to Travaris Robinson, who is now at Georgia, and to Nick Saban, who is now retired. Two key people that were a part of his recruitment and his decision to go to Tuscaloosa are no longer there. And so, yes, the players commit to a system and they commit to a school and a logo and all that, but I would say even more specifically, people commit to people. And so with Caleb Downs not having the people he committed to currently at where he committed to, it does make some sense for him to decide to look elsewhere. So, in terms of where he could go, I think the obvious one you got to look at here is Georgia. Because, again, there was a report out when this whole thing started to gather some traction of Caleb Downs is unsure as to what he'll do, if he'll test the portal or if he'll stay at Alabama. There was the report citing that Travaris Robinson and him going to Georgia factored into Caleb Downs considering the portal. So if he's the reason that you are considering transferring and ultimately deciding to transfer, you have to imagine he is as much a reason as well to potentially commit somewhere. Again, we're speaking of Travaris Robinson at Georgia. Someone that Caleb Downs has a great relationship with, would be his coach at Georgia, coach his position at Georgia. Being a co-DC now is Travaris Robinson in Athens. Also, Caleb Downs is from the state of Georgia. So I understand Tuscaloosa is not outrageously far from where he's from either, but you're back in your home state. Can't imagine that hurts things. Georgia was also a finalist for him out of high school. Like, if I had to place money as of right now, I think Georgia would be the place where I would put that bet. Another school to look at, Ohio State. I mean, Jim Knowles and what he does at the safety position, you have to imagine would be a lot of fun to play for with how exotic that defense gets. And also, it's worth noting that Ohio State was also in the mix for Caleb Downs when he was making his decision out of high school. I remember clear as day. We were at the Ohio State-Michigan game when it was in Columbus. And there was a certain buzz in the air circulating. And I went over and talked to someone that I know that's close to Ohio State and asked, like, hey, what's going on? He said, hey, Caleb Downs is visiting today. So we kind of took a surprise visit. So obviously, if you have, enough interest to take a surprise visit to a school, you have to believe that maybe they're in the mix at this point in time as well. But again, Georgia being my pick, Ohio State has to be somewhere in the mix behind them again for my money. But we'll see what happens here. Because if you're Caleb Downs, whether he plays at Georgia, whether he plays at Cornell, I don't know if the Big Red will be in the sweepstakes for him, unfortunately, but his future is solidified. Like, he's going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. We all saw the ability this year. Wherever he plays isn't going to change that, in my opinion. So wherever he goes, they're getting a great one. If you're Alabama, it's unfortunate you weren't able to keep him. I don't think that the ceiling is falling into Alabama. I'm not saying that at all. People commit to people. The people he committed to are now elsewhere. Their narratives are going to run, whether they're true or not. Their narratives, they will eventually run their course. I think Alabama's going to be fine as long as they have the good personnel in place to still run that 4-2-5 defense for Kane Womack. But for Caleb Downs, wherever he ends up, he will be a day one baller and will be immediate impact player for that defense. So keep it locked right here. When he does commit, Caleb Downs, of course, we will have immediate reaction for you there as well. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, man. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.